Okay, welcome everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We've got so many awesome folks joining in, and we've got Yobi, we've got Will, we've got Sandy, we've got Niraj, and we've got a million otter note takers, Alan, because this is
Oh God.
2024 and we're living in the
Ki-
future.
Kill those otters.
That's right. Hopefully, we have some real people in the room as well. But seriously, thank you all so much for joining. I know it's a busy time of year as autumn dawns, and for all those who are either looking for a job or helping students look for jobs, there's lots going on. That being said, I want to introduce my partner in crime today, Alan Stein, because he is an absolute rock star in this space. Someone who's landed amazing jobs at every cool tech firm, who's now helped thousands of people land jobs at those firms themselves. So, Alan, just to sort of set things up to get this debate started, tell folks a little bit about who's on this side of the ring.
Yeah, thank you, Jeremy. I'm a big fan of Jeremy. He wrote the book on LinkedIn, and I've read it, learned a lot from Jeremy. I'm Alan Stein, the founder and CEO of Kadima Careers. I previously worked at a lot of big tech companies, and now we help people get better jobs quickly, confidently, and with lots more money. And I've been a LinkedIn user for over 20 years, so I kind of geek out about it, but I always learn new things from Jeremy as well. So I'm looking forward not only to contributing here, but also to learn from Jeremy
Uh,
and win the debate because
that's right. That's right.
I don't like to lose.
So we gotta know our audience here because that's the key thing. As we've learned the hard way in some of the debates we've just seen recently. So
Yeah.
that being said, hopefully we're both gonna bring our A games today. For those who know me, I'm Jeremy Schiefling, founder of the Job Insiders, former LinkedIn guy, and basically super excited just to sort of geek out here. This is a labor of love for Alan and myself. And if you want to keep the conversation going, I'm happy to connect on LinkedIn afterwards. So that being said, without further ado, we polled you guys online ahead of time and said, hey, what do you want us to debate? What are the spiciest things that you're trying to solve, either for yourself or your students? And there were three things that really stood out. Number one, the big one, is LinkedIn Premium actually worth it? And we get it. On the one hand, the job market is tighter than ever, so you want all your advantages. On the other hand, cost of living is up in every way, so we have less money to spend on this stuff. So that ROI question is something we're going to dive into. Then the infamous open to work green badge. Is it a green badge of honor, a green badge of shame? Alan and I will debate it. And then finally, probably the fundamental question that's always been with us is how do you actually do LinkedIn the right way? Is it for just building your real world network online? Is it for expanding it into a whole new network of strangers? What do you think is the best way to live your best LinkedIn life? And then finally, we're going to give an audience choices lightning round section where Alan and I will debate anything you want at the very end. So bring your spiciest jalapeno questions and get ready for that. Okay, without further ado, we're going to jump into the first question. And I want to start by pulling up a poll here. So we're going to do some pre and post polling, just like they do with the big leagues, to see if we're moving the needle at all. So I want you to come to the poll and let us know your feelings about LinkedIn Premium before you hear our answers. Is it worth it? And we're intentionally leaving that pretty general because we don't want to box you into a specific value prop or a specific ROI. Just want to get your sense of things before we dive in. And now look at this. Even before we've gotten into the first debate, it's pretty close, kind of a horse race here.
I I can't see it on my
Oh,
side, so
sorry. Yeah, that's right. Let me end the poll so I can share those results. Sorry about that. So as everyone can see here, it's pretty much, in the margin of error, as they would say
yeah.
on the national election stage. Does that surprise you at all, Alan?
It doesn't because like we tried to pick some controversial topics that would have a good mix, but I'm actually surprised that it's as close as it is too. So,
Right. And Will calls out
um,
something important in the chat. Says it option C, it used to be, but maybe now it is. And I specifically avoided giving that cop out answer of not sure, maybe, because I know we're all kind of stuck in the middle on these. And so I want to force folks to pick a side. That being said, we're going to come back to you in a moment. For now, let's kick this debate off. And Alan, you're taking the affirmative side. So why is LinkedIn Premium worth it, Alan?
so if you want a better job quickly, if you want a better job with more money, you need to be using all the tools at your disposal. And LinkedIn Premium provides lots of tools. LinkedIn Free used to provide a lot of those tools also. And because LinkedIn is owned by Microsoft and they are money-making organizations, they have pulled back on some key features that make your job search a hell of a lot harder. if you don't pay the price of admission. So while I think it sucks that we have to pay $30 a month, which I think is a price now for LinkedIn Premium, I think if you want a better job quickly and with more money and efficiently, pay the $30 per
Wow.
month until you get that better job.
And let me play the role of the moderator as well. Um, what specifically is the value prop, Alan? Like if you had to sort of sell it, because I think LinkedIn's done a fairly bad job of explaining
Yeah.
it. And I'll just say as an insider, LinkedIn sells a whole lot less premium than they sell tools to recruiters. So I think they really made the recruiter case clear, not so much for us job seekers, really sell it better than LinkedIn can.
Yeah. So, and that's a great point because LinkedIn has multiple different constituents that they support. From the job seeker's perspective, there are a couple of key features that give you better search capabilities, that give you better outreach ability, and quicker access to the billion people on the platform. There are ways that you can hack around that, and Germany's created lots of actually great hacks that you can do that without LinkedIn Premium. But my perspective is my time is worth a lot of money. So if I can invest $30 a month while I'm looking for my job, and I can connect with 100 people a week instead of 5 people per week, and I can look for people at any company and any commonality with me, I think that $30 a month is worth it.
And I actually just wanted to demo some of these things. I know this is hurting my case, but
Yeah.
it is true that LinkedIn is now turning the screws on us job seekers.
And you're
Yeah,
probably more up on this of what the capabilities are or not, because they always keep peeling back the capabilities on the free version to make people
exactly.
buy the paid version.
Yeah, so let's say that you wanted to connect with a recruiter at Google. So you come over here and do this search. Now, if this was 6 months ago, you would say, hey, no problem. Here's Giannis. Click on his profile. I come to more. I click connect. I can send him a note. Only problem is that all of a sudden, as Alan is saying, they are forcing two things. And I have premium, by the way, because I'm grandfathered in as a former LinkedIn employee. It's a nice little alumni benefit they give us.
Oh, nice.
But basically, if you or do not have premium, you can only send 200 characters, which is tiny, by the way, and you can only send five personalized connection requests a month.
Oh,
Now,
it's a
here's the
month, not even
ironic thing,
not even
Alan.
a week.
Yeah,
Oh, interesting.
yeah,
It's even worse than I thought.
yeah, no, absolutely. Because when I was on the education team at LinkedIn, one of our number one like maxims of LinkedIn, written in stone, the Ten Commandments, if you will, was you always send a personalized connection request. And now I'm getting hundreds of unpersonalized connection requests every week, literally because LinkedIn will not let people send them, which I think is insane from a sort of network building perspective. But again, like you said, part of a for-profit company, in fact, the most valuable company in the world, depending on the day. So trying to get more money totally makes sense. Anything else you want to call out, Alan? You want me to show on the screen here as far as demoing
Um,
the value of LinkedIn Premium?
the other area that I really find valuable myself, if you can click out of the connect here,
Yeah,
and if you go to click on my network,
yeah,
this is a
absolutely.
feature that I personally love, and you click on manage my network.
Yep.
And oh, you're almost at the limit of connections, dude.
I know, it's crazy.
And if you click on connections and then you go
Yep.
to the filter, you click on search with filters. So this is the feature that I personally think is worth $30 on its own. So when you click on all filters,
Mhm.
if you went to Michigan, so if you were trying to find someone who worked at OpenAI
Yeah.
and you looked at an a lot like past university
Yep.
Michigan,
Yep.
and then current school, current company OpenAI.
Yeah. Beautiful.
You
Let me pull it
will
up.
like this. It shows that it's premium here, but if you want to work at OpenAI, you're going to find a lot of people here, not in your first degree, but if you open it up to your second and third degree,
Yeah.
there's 8 people right there. And now you do third plus degree, you have 30 people here that you can all of a sudden reach out to and say, "Hey, Katie, I go Big Blue. I'm a Michigan
That's right.
alum as well. I'd love to connect with you here on LinkedIn."
Yeah.
And without premium, you wouldn't. There's other ways to do this, and I know you like the alumni tool, and I know you worked on the alumni tool. I find the alumni tool is not as comprehensive sometimes as this search filter.
Okay, so we're gonna have to have our first fact check of the debate. We're gonna
Yeah.
bring some 2024 themes into this.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, is that true? Is it true that you only get those advanced filters if you have LinkedIn Premium?
I I I've showed that like I've done that with some
Yeah.
folks of our clients. I've seen that. So I don't believe you can do that.
Okay,
And
so
we both have premium, so I don't know how we
yeah,
can fact check this.
I have a
Unless,
I have a separate free account, but it's in a separate window, so I won't do it right now. But if
okay,
we've got any intrepid fact checkers out there, if you do not have LinkedIn Premium, try doing what Alan just demonstrated. Go to
yeah,
all filters, try to search for
because
your alma mater.
it says up top there premium,
I know, I know. I was
but
just curious because I think some of these things are premium, like actively hiring, which could be really cool, by the way.
hmm,
But I'm not sure that all of them are premium. So if anyone wants to fact check, let us know in the chat. We'll be waiting.
yeah.
Okay. Going once, going twice. Any last things, Alan, that you want to call out before
That
we go on to the negative side of the ledger?
that's the biggest one, and also the ability to connect with 100 people per week. So that's like 400 per month versus
Right.
what you're saying now. They're cutting it to five
Right.
per
And I
per
want to be
month.
clear, it's not that you can't connect with people, but you just can't send those personalized
Ah,
connection requests, which of course is a giant pain in the butt.
and if you don't send those personalized messages, the likelihood of you getting your connection accepted, I think, dramatically decrease.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, bottom line, that is a pretty compelling case. I'm getting ready to pull up my credit card over here. But before you make your final vote, in the interest of fairness and the interest of frugality, I've got to make the negative case.
Yeah.
So here we go. First thing is, I've got to say, there are really two things that LinkedIn has made the case for with LinkedIn Premium since time immemorial. Basically, the digital stone ages when I worked there. The first one was the idea that basically in-mails are a guaranteed way to get in touch with anyone. Oh, and by the way, Alan, you're getting fact checked by Marnie and Will. They say that they can use those filters even with free. So hopefully,
Really?
fingers crossed. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway,
That
but
that's
yeah,
that's awesome. So if that is true, maybe I will change my mind. But
that's
like
right.
I would like to
Oh,
I would like to see some proof. Otherwise,
yeah.
it might be fake news.
Could you imagine the Donald and Kamala up there on the
Yeah.
stage? Be like, hey, you totally changed my mind. I agree with you. Let's do tariffs on everything. No, just kidding. That being said, here's what I need you to think about. Two things that LinkedIn has really said is like, hey, if you can get in-mails the same way that recruiters have in-mails, you're going to be able to bust through every brick wall and connect with all these insiders, and your life is going to be amazing. However, here's the problem. Whether you connect with a personalized connection request, whether you connect with an in-mail, LinkedIn's inbox is an inherently fragile channel. And what do I mean by that? It's not a channel that most of us check on a regular basis. So, sure, we get those notifications in Gmail saying, hey, you've got a message, but a lot of us mark those as spam. And then Gmail starts to get the message that anything from LinkedIn is spam. This was a huge problem for me when I was a marketer there. But the reality is, it's an even bigger problem for you guys because it means all those great, carefully crafted messages are never being seen. On the other hand, what is the one inbox, Alan, that every professional checks 100 times a day?
Email?
Email. And of course, email doesn't cost a cent. It's one of the greatest gifts we've ever given to the potential job seeker. So check this out. Come over to another site called hunter.io. You're like, hey, I want to get a job at LinkedIn so I can change that stupid policy and make it useful for job seekers again without costing them money. So I come over here and I look up the email address format for LinkedIn.com. And sure enough, just like it was back in 2012, the email pattern is still first initial, full last name at LinkedIn.com. I was Jay Schiefling at LinkedIn.com. Our founder was R. Hoffman at LinkedIn.com. And without paying a cent, you can get into the actual inbox that everyone's checking and be sure that your message is actually seen. So strike one against LinkedIn Premium. Now let's go to strike two. We all have this idea that if you looked up anything on the internet, whether it's Ozempic or whatever else, you're going to be deluged with all these ads that are at the very top of the screen. And how did they get there? Not by being good at SEO, but by paying their way to the top. So shouldn't the same be the true inside LinkedIn, where if you pay for LinkedIn Premium, you should be at the top of the recruiter screen? But now, let's go back to fundamental economics, the exact thing that Alan laid out. If you're Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, and you own LinkedIn, and you are making 70% of your revenue from recruiters and less than 10% from job seekers, who do you think gets to own this algorithm? Is it biased in the recruiter's favor, showing them the best candidates? Or is it biased in the job seeker's favor, showing them the people who are paying money? And of course, the reality is recruiters are the golden goose for LinkedIn, and they will not sacrifice it. So as you can see here, right in this critical screen that recruiters pay $10,000 a year for, there are no ads, there are no job seekers who are promoted to the top just because they bought premium. So you cannot buy your way to the top, which means save your money and instead invest in real relationships with real people in the real world. That's what's going to lead to more success over time. I rest my case. So before we go into the final vote, Alan, any final rejoinders, any final comments?
No, I'm no, you came well prepared. And I think that what you're showing, there are workarounds, and I agree that there are workarounds. The question is, how many workarounds do you want to take
That's
as a
right.
job seeker when it's damn hard to get a job in the first place?
That's right. That's right. So, question about friction versus frugality, and to ultimately sort of weigh those things, let's go back to that poll one more time. So, here we go. We're going to reset the past results. Remember, before it was 55% no and 45% yes. Let's try it one more time. Okay, here we go again. Dun, 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 dun. Where do you stand, having seen Alan and Jeremy duke it out on one of the spiciest questions of the day? Okay, I'm gonna go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We're gonna end the poll. We're gonna share the results. And look at this, Alan.
We
We're right
did
back where we started.
what?
We've
Why
moved
did it?
absolutely no one.
Yes, exactly. It seems like the political debates.
Yes, well said. Well, I will just say for anyone who's really curious, if you've got questions about anything we just covered here, if you're like, hey, could you show that again or explain that again? Totally fair game. And you can always open up the chat, or you can put it into you can raise your hand. That being said, with that being said, I think it is time for our second topic. And of course, that is dun, 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 the infamous green badge of open to work. Now, Alan, I don't know if we drew straws or if I just foolishly agreed to do this, but I'm going to actually argue in the affirmative. The answer is absolutely yes. Before I do that, I want to get a sense of how folks are feeling. So here comes the next poll. Get ready for this. And what we're going to do is we're going to figure out how you guys feel about that famous badge. So we're going to open this up and go
You,
ahead and answer that question.
do you want to show an image just so people know
Oh,
what we're
yeah, yeah,
talking
yeah.
about?
And so I don't know if you can
Um,
see both the image
oh,
and my
you
screen at the same time, but basically a little green badge that lies at the bottom of someone's profile photo. And the way I want you to think about this is obviously if you're currently employed, you're not going to turn it on. That would be a pretty bad look. Although there are some Amazon employees, Alan, who are so pissed off about return to work that they put that on.
Yeah, I would
Um,
say that's not obvious. We've coached clients and we've told them if you're actively working at a company not to put that badge on, but some
that's
people
right.
still do.
That's right. So if you are totally a free agent, you don't have to worry about your boss checking up on you, and you want to get a new job, of course, should you turn it on. Now, this is interesting. Now we're getting to a part where I'm going to share the poll that we're getting to a little bit more of a division where it feels like more people are leaning away from it. That green badge of shame. Can't really be a good thing, could it? Well, let me make the case that it is. And again, I'm going to do this based on data. So the first thing you got to check out is the fact that LinkedIn has crunched the numbers on this, and they found, and this is really cool, that you are 20% more likely to get messages from the LinkedIn community at large. Let me make this a little larger. And then in particular, this is the thing that really matters. You are twice as likely to get messaged by a recruiter, the thing that you actually want. And I think a lot of what this is coming from is that if you put yourself in the recruiter's shoes and you know that you're making these split second decisions about who's serious, who actually is likely to respond to my message, you will notice that that green badge just makes it easy. It says, hey, this person's legit. And for those who don't know this already, LinkedIn actually rewards recruiters who reach out to serious candidates because even though they have a limited number of emails to send every month themselves, about 30 on average, if you reach out to someone like Alan and Alan responds, you get that email credit refunded. So there's a massive incentive to only reach out to engaged, serious candidates. And obviously, if you're putting on open to work, you're pretty darn serious. So that's step one. But step two is I want to make a little bit of a sociological argument to you. We're going to go deep into the social sciences here, Alan. And that is that there was a really famous experiment that Mark Granovetter did back in the 1970s called the theory of weak ties. Do you recall that at all, Alan?
I haven't heard of that guy, but I'm familiar with the power of weak ties. I'm a big fan of the weak ties, and Adam Grant talks a lot about that as well.
Absolutely. And so the idea is that basically, as counterintuitive as that may seem, it's the weak ties in your network, the friend of a friend, the person you worked with 10 years ago, who are most likely to plug you into job opportunities versus your strong ties, Because guess what? Your friends and family, they all know the same people and the same things as you do. So you need to reach out a little further to find those things that are truly new. And then LinkedIn came along just a couple years ago and did this crazy experiment with MIT, not with a couple hundred people like they did in the 70s, but with 20 million LinkedIn profiles. And they started to show some people slightly weaker ties, slightly sort of people at the edge of their networks. And it turned out that the more you were exposed to weak ties, the more opportunities you got. And as a result, I think that the real power of that green badge is not a green badge of shame, but a beacon, a lighthouse that is saying, hey, you may have known me 5 years ago. We went to school together 15 years ago, but I need your help today. And if you see that signal and you know of an opportunity that I've never even heard of, I would love to know about it as well. And so I'm going to call upon our better angels here, which as I know there are some annoying recruiters out there who are like, oh, I hate that badge, blah, blah, blah. But the reality is, having pulled this on LinkedIn, most recruiters don't care one way or the other. And then when you think about the power of weak ties, that's a power that we all want. Or is it, Alan? You make the opposite case.
Yeah. So, couple of things. You can be open to work with the green badge, and you can be open to work without the green badge. And both of those deliver a signal to the recruiter, whether you have the green badge on or not. When so you can choose that. I always recommend that people always keep the clandestine open to work on because that's a signal just to recruiters and not everybody out there that you're looking. Even if you're comfortably employed at a company, always be looking. Yeah, right here at the bottom there, recruiters only versus all LinkedIn members. And what happens here, I don't know how many recruiters on the platform, maybe you know that, Jeremy, but all LinkedIn members are a billion people. So when you put that green badge on, you're I am making the case that you don't want that green badge on to all billion people, but I'm saying always keep the recruiters on. So what we're debating is the green badge.
Yep.
The reason why I'm saying don't put the green badge on is it can look desperate. It
Aha.
can look needy. And there are going to be some recruiters and some hiring managers that look at that. And perhaps at some of the cocky companies, perhaps some of the companies that are very high on themselves, and they're like, we don't want desperate people. We want people that are hard to get, that we have to pry away, that we need to lure. So by putting that on there, you're making yourself look too easy. So,
Mm.
and because of that, you are going to reduce the likelihood that a top company like OpenAI or Anthropic or Google or Facebook or Goldman Sachs will reach out to you. They like people that are hard to get.
Ooh, interesting. So in some ways, it's almost like a dating metaphor. I know we always mix those dating and job search
Yeah.
metaphors, like the first date, do you want to get married, all that stuff. You're saying play a little hard to get versus, hey, I'm open and I'm easy.
Yes. And by the way, this is the debate stance I'm taking. So I have some data that actually has a subtle difference here, but I do think the fear of having that badge on, that fear of looking desperate is real. And I do know people, I do know recruiters, I do know hiring managers that will say that Jeremy looks a little desperate there. I'm going to look for someone that's not desperate to get a job.
Yeah. And I think the really interesting question for us is how many people actually think that way versus that classic sort of social science phenomenon of, well, we heard our friend said that,
Yep.
therefore we assume everyone is that way. And again, I wish I could pull up the poll that I ran on LinkedIn where I asked recruiters to weigh in. And it was something like, I think 5% said, oh, it's a badge of shame. 5% said it's a badge of honor. And like 90% said I couldn't care less one way or the other. So I think in some ways it does speak to the kind of laser-like focus that recruiters have to focus on with the things that matter.
And I did that exact same poll. I'm not going to reveal my numbers until we get the feedback from the audience here. Um,
Oh my goodness.
but
That's like
yeah,
Trump saying, I'm not going to reveal my economic plan until after I'm
yes,
elected, right?
yes.
I
Even though,
got the
yes,
plans. Don't worry. I got the plans.
yes, I have a plan
Okay.
for the plan.
All right. That's great. So let's just see if there's some questions here. And we want to be really helpful to you guys, especially to the job seekers out there. We know there's a lot of pain in the marketplace. Victor says, what if you aren't being contacted by those top firms anyway? Would it actually be better to have the badge and not to have anything? What do you think about that, Alan?
If, sorry, say that question
Oh yeah,
again.
sorry
'Cause I
about that.
was,
So like Victor is saying, hey, I've been playing hard to get, but I'm not getting anything given the
yeah.
labor market. Maybe I should just put the badge on to
So
give something out there.
that's good strategy, actually. I have actually noticed and I've heard, I don't have data on this, but just anecdotal and feedback of like flashing it on and off, like a week or two on, a week or two off, actually does give an indicator to recruiters of newly active candidates. And it, I think that changing your strategy every now and then could be beneficial. I don't have data on that, but I do think that I think shaking it up a little bit is beneficial. And I've seen that myself as well.
Cool. Well, I think I'm going to give Daniel the last word on this because Daniel, like the calm moderator in this spicy debate, is like, guys, it's the same about worrying about the font on your resume. We can debate it till the cows come home, but at the end of the day, it's about your skills, it's about your experiences, not some green badge. So, with that said, I'm still going to force you to vote on this. And if Alan's got anything that he wants to reveal afterwards, that's great.
Yeah.
But for now, let me go ahead and relaunch the poll. And as always, your votes are anonymous. Fear not. We are just trying to get a pulse of the nation, a pulse of the world. Where do you stand on that green badge now that the debate has concluded? Okay, we're gonna give it 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, end the poll. Share the results. Aha!
Oh,
If
we
I
moved the
am not
needle.
mistaken, Alan, I think we had a massive movement in our results, maybe 2 or 3 percentage points in the favor of the badge. So,
Yes. And I approve that, like, well, not I approve, but I agree with that because the same study that you did on LinkedIn, I did the same one of asking recruiters and hiring managers about the badge. My numbers were 60% said it made no difference.
okay.
And then 20% said I'm more apt to look at a candidate with a badge, and 20% said they're less apt to look at
Wow.
someone. So the numbers are essentially similar to what someone said here about the font on your resume.
Yep.
It's not going to make a difference. The most important thing is own it and be comfortable with it.
Yeah. So just a couple of final words here. Jennifer says in the chat, I've had open to work on my job search and got contacted a lot. Amazing, Jennifer. That's awesome. Jane wants to know, and this is a really interesting question. Would open to work affect your salary negotiation? Oh, could it make you look more desperate? Take away some of your leverage, Alan?
That's a good question. Psychologically, it might, but there's a lot more advice, and that could be our fourth deduct debate topic about when to talk about compensation. But yeah, I think that's an interesting point, Jane. I don't have data on that.
Yeah. You know what it reminds me of a lot is cover letters. I bet if you ask recruiters about cover letters, you'd probably get very similar stats to what you got on Open to Work. Like 20% love cover letters, 20% hate cover letters, 60% are like, whatever. So
Yeah.
again,
And I think it's also very dependent on the company.
yeah,
So if companies are getting hundreds or thousands of resumes, they're going to be less apt to look at a cover letter than a company that's getting 10 or 20 applications.
cool. Well, hey, if we were ABC News, now would be time for a commercial break because this is a completely non-profit operation. We're gonna just bust on to topic three, which is the OG of LinkedIn questions. Should I be connecting with strangers? Yes or no? So this predates premium. This predates the badge. From day one, what do you think, Alan? Does it make sense to connect with strangers? And before we dive in, let's poll the audience. So here we go. What do you think? As a general rule, obviously there are always edge cases. What's your feeling? Are you open to connecting? Do you want to keep it like a real sort of Rolodex of the people you know in the real world? What is the point of LinkedIn? What is your ideology, your pedagogy when it comes to using LinkedIn well? Okay, 3, 2, 1. And then it looks like, wow, this is the most clear one so far. A lot of believers. I don't know if we've got a self-selecting audience here. We've got the LinkedIn nerds on the line, the career coaches, the job seekers.
And
What does that? Yeah.
you're not showing it, or at least I
Oh,
can't see it.
I'm so sorry about that. My bad. I'm
There you go.
still a
Cool.
complete Zoom dork, even on Zoom session 1001. Okay, here we go. You can see the results. About two-thirds saying yes. Does that surprise you, Alan?
It surprises me that so many people said no here.
Oh, interesting. You thought the yeses would be higher.
I I forget which side of the debate I'm supposed to be on here.
Well,
But
I think technically you signed up for yes. Are you okay with
okay.
that?
Yes, I still firmly believe as a general rule we should be open to connecting with strangers.
Okay.
And to
Do
define,
you want to elaborate?
yeah, to define stranger here, people here, not technically strangers, but I would connect with. I'm defining a stranger as anybody that you have never met, you have no knowledge of, you've never had an interaction with. So Jeremy and I were initially strangers, and then I learned about him from his book and his posts, and I reached out to him, and we're no longer strangers. And if I was against reaching out to strangers, I would have never met a good friend like Jeremy and been here with all you. So, and looking back on a lot of jobs that I've gotten in my career, lots of opportunities that have been afforded me, it has been sometimes with my loose connections or my weak ties or my existing connections, but more often, if you want to get to a place where you're not at currently, you're going to have to put yourself out there and be comfortable reaching out to some strangers that are in those spaces, that are in those companies, in those locations where you want to get into. So I'm all for reaching out to strangers. Just don't eat candy from strangers as we're
That's
coming up
right.
on Halloween.
It's right. We've got a Halloween season coming up here. Be careful out there. Although I think this goes back to our parenting thing, Alan. There's never been like one case, I think, in the entire recorded history of journalism of like a razor blade being hit in a candy bar, and yet every parent freaks out about it. So going back to the open to work debate, again, a lot of mass hysteria. Okay, that being said, I totally agree with Alan, to be honest. That being said, I do want to make a slightly more nuanced version of this, which to build on what Scott was sharing in the chat, is like, what's wrong with these people? How come they're not connecting? That's the whole point of LinkedIn.
Mm,
But what I would argue is an even earlier question, which is why aren't you connecting with the people you already know? To make that case, check out the data. So it turns out when you look at how many connections people have on LinkedIn, and this is true when I worked there, the average person has something like 100 or 200 connections. So it sounds like pretty good. All right, you got 100, 200 people. But then you think, how many people do you actually know IRL in the real world, as the kiddies say? And it turns out that the data
wow.
suggests you will meet 80,000 people in your lifetime. Even
Mm,
if you're a student, even if you're an undergrad, that would suggest you may have met 20,000 already, even if it's just over email or a quick conversation here or there. If you've got 100 people in your connection list, that means that every time I, as the recruiter, am coming over here to search for people who are plugged into my company, to search based on who I'm already connected with, which is really important to the LinkedIn algorithm, by the way, you are missing out because if you are not connected with those people on LinkedIn, you do not get credit for that in the algorithm, even if they're your best buddy in real life. So, what does that mean? My recommendation is for all these people who are worried about strangers, yes or no. It's actually not about strangers. It's like, hey, just get your house in order, just build a solid foundation. And the single best thing you can do is come to the My Network tab and take advantage of this crazy data science hack, which is early on in the history of LinkedIn. The data scientists realized from network theory that if I know Chris and Chris knows Alan, there's a good chance that I know Alan as well. It's kind of like that associative property from mathematics, right? As a
yep.
result, if you come to the My Network tab right now and you have fewer than 500 connections, chances are you will see hundreds of people that you already know because LinkedIn's data science is that good, that creepy. And if you just go right down this list, bam, 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 that single act of getting credit for the people you know in the real world will do more good for you than spending 100 hours reaching out to strangers. The bottom line, get your house in order and get those existing connections to LinkedIn before you worry about strangers. Any other thoughts there, Alan?
Yeah, if you go, so you should connect with strangers, but also understand that not all strangers will accept your connection. Because I think,
Yes.
Jeremy, going to your network, I think you had 106 inbound invites
Oh,
waiting
right,
for.
right, right.
And
Oops.
someone like
Sorry.
you, someone like me, we get
Yeah.
lots of connections. So just because you send a connection doesn't mean someone will look at I'm not saying you're not looking at it, but 106 requests are a lot of work for you to go through. So that might take you a while. So you may not accept it, or and also don't feel insulted if people say no to your connection request. There are a lot of people that will say yes to your connection request.
Yeah. And I do think that the trick is that if you connect with people you already know, you can actually get around that big issue that we talked about in our first debate, which is that LinkedIn has now clamped the screws down on your ability to send personalized requests. So, for example, if I know Chris already, I don't have to explain why I'm connecting with
Right.
him. Versus if you're
Exactly.
reaching out cold and you only have 5 personalized messages a month, it's going to be harder, even as infuriating as it is. Okay,
Exactly.
I think we've made our respective cases. Let's just see. I want to call some of the stuff in the chat because you guys are blowing it up with this great stuff. I love what Maggie said. Check out what Maggie said, Alan. The job hunt process is a yes process. It is a maximizing options process. I love that. Any
Yeah.
comments there, Alan?
100% agree. You are trying to expand your surface area of luck. You are trying to expand those opportunities, expand that aperture, and say no to less, say yes to more.
Oh, if you don't mind, I'm gonna steal that surface area of luck. It brings out like the nerdy physics side and the
Yeah.
job search side. I
That
love that.
that was from some podcast. It was a Tim Ferriss podcast. I forget who he
Okay.
was interviewing. So I can't. You can give me credit, but
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm stealing that from someone else.
That's right. Um, Robert's asking a good question. Doesn't LinkedIn cause a problem? So maybe like put your account on probation or something if you get too many no's when sending a connection request. Ooh, this is a juicy one. Alan, any
Um,
thoughts here?
I don't think so. I think only I've never heard of that, but I know that once you send out too many connection requests in a week or in a month, like on the free version, they will give you what I call the badge of honor. They will slap up a badge saying that you hit your connection limit. But
Ah,
I would imagine maybe if too many people say that you're spam, maybe they will do something to your account. I have not heard of that myself.
yeah. So I will speak to this. I don't know exactly how the algorithm works today, but here's how it used to work. If enough people clicked ignore on you, basically saying, I don't know who this person is from Adam, that would actually do two things. The first step is if you start to see that thing where it says, hey, put in this person's email address every time you try to connect with someone, it's like basically you're on probation. We're on to you. You're connecting with people who don't know you. Prove that you know these people in real life.
Yeah,
And then the next step is you will actually get your account frozen, which is a huge pain in the butt to get unfrozen because LinkedIn's customer support team is, of course, cut to the bone, as is every customer support team. And Alan knows about that kind of stuff from being on the inside. Um, and so, in general, when we talk about connecting with strangers, it's not just like connect random people. It's connect, send a note, explain what the connection is. I think someone said this really well in the chat. I believe it was Shelly. I would be more open to connecting if you mention a specific goal based on my profile.
yeah.
Yes, Shelly. If you can make that case, I think you're not going to be in any danger of getting in that probation zone because you're going to have people who are excited to connect with you. All right.
100%. And that goes back to the other debate of is LinkedIn Premium valuable? Because then you can send that note and say, hey, I'm connecting with you because I'm a Michigan alum. And you're
Yeah.
going to get less likely to get a negative slap on your wrist because you're going to have that affinity and you're going to get more likely to have that person accept the connection request.
Yeah. I love that Will said, or I don't even love it, but it's painful. But Will, who's a career coach in Minnesota, says, hey, I've had students get their accounts frozen. Huge pain. Yes. We
Yeah.
want to coach our students, be aggressive, be bold, but do
And,
it wisely as well. Yes, Will.
and and to Jeremy's point, yeah, it's really hard to get in touch with LinkedIn tech support. I had my account banned for 2 days. I was totally off the platform for 2 days, and that was very painful for me to get it back on.
Yeah, I'm just going to put in my standard response here. If anyone's in that sort of pain right now, here are your two best bets. I always say, number one, obviously send them a ticket, and here's the URL if you want to know. This is sort of the secret way to get in touch with them. But number two, I've had more success advocating for people by reaching out to like the
Oh,
head of customer success and stuff, which again
nice.
shows the power of email over LinkedIn messages. So,
I'm copying that. See,
yes.
I told you, like I learned something new all the time from you.
Exactly. Jennifer, you raised a really good question. There are scammers on LinkedIn as there are scammers on anything that the internet touches these days, unfortunately. The one nice thing I'll say about LinkedIn is they have made it a little bit easier just to get them out of your inbox, get them out of your face. So it used to be like, oh, you got to report someone or block someone, blah, blah, blah. Now what I just do, if someone is trying to sell me something, I come right over here, I click these three little dots, and I move to other. Kind of like the way that like your Gmail or your email account tries to give you your important messages and everything else. By putting someone in other, you're basically never going to see their messages again, but you don't have to go through the whole process of reporting them. And it just keeps your inbox focused on the people you want to talk to versus the folks who are wasting your time. So just a little way to save some time there. Okay, I know we're getting towards the end of the session. So let's give everyone a chance to weigh in on this question and then the final big question. So here we go. Connecting with strangers. We've made our cases. Let's go ahead and relaunch that poll. And again, one last time, now that we've made our cases, even though my case was a stealth mode yes, couch says a no, where do you stand? Oh my goodness, this is crazy. Three, two, one. Alan, you blew me out of the water. It is 90 to 10.
Woohoo! I'm still curious about that 11%.
I know.
That, that, that-
11 percenters out there. If you don't mind explaining your rationale, we'd love to hear it. But
yeah,
certainly it is anonymous, so we respect that privacy.
that's true. I'm not calling anyone out there, but it's just curious about why people would not be open to connecting with strangers on LinkedIn.
And I love what Pedro said. I've been using LinkedIn since December 2003. It's practically the beginning, and it's got about 2,200 connections. So Pedro's really focused on quality versus quantity, which I love. So maybe there is that aspect to it, which says, hey, like if you are someone who wants to just see, your own friends in your feed versus a bunch of randos, there is kind of a little bit of an upside. Like I will admit, I love connecting with new people. I see a lot of stuff in my feed that I have no idea what's going on. So,
Yeah. Oh, it,
oh,
it doesn't mean that. So there's a different debate. Should you accept every connection
oh,
request?
yeah,
That would be different. But should you, as someone who has a LinkedIn account, should you feel comfortable connecting with strangers? That's where I was curious about the 11% that are not comfortable with that.
yeah, yeah. Good question. Okay, so now here we go. Time for, as promised, dun, 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 the lightning round, audience choice. So, if you've got a burning question that we haven't covered so far, or you even want to weigh in and join the debate ring, please, please, please put in your number one on fire in fuego LinkedIn question right in the chat right now, or right in the poll right now. So basically, it could be anything from recommendations versus endorsements to the importance of profile photos. What should I do with the cover photo? I know there are like a million mysteries because LinkedIn is kind of a black box. Anything else that you want to tee up for people, Alan, that would be especially exciting?
I put one in there
Okay, good,
myself,
good.
so I don't want to tip the scales.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you're going to put them all up there for people to weigh in on, or you want me to share mine.
Yeah, so let's do this. And Nessa's got one in the chat, which is awesome. So hold on one second, Nessa. I'm going to give people 5 more seconds because I know it takes a little while to type it in. So put your answers in, and then we'll put it on the screen and we'll sort of debate it a little bit. So here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, end poll. Share results. Okay, so let's look at this together. I don't know if everyone can see the details here. I'm going to try to share it on my screen. But what's your number one burning question? How can I get more people? You know what we're going to do here, Alan? We're going to do a little AI magic. Watch this, everyone. I'm going to
Okay.
grab all these things, all these different comments. I'm going to come over to ChatGPT and watch this. What are the 3 most common themes across these questions? And the crazy thing about ChatGPT is it is crazy good, not just at quantitative data, but at qualitative data, taking all of those open-ended comments in our surveys and finding the common themes. Okay, so profile optimization for visibility, job search strategies, and networking engagement. I think profile optimization could be a really juicy place to begin because I know there are a lot of job seekers who are like, this theoretical stuff is fine, but I need to know how to win today. So it doesn't even have to be a debate. But let's do this. If you want to weigh in with your feedback, obviously you can put it in the chat. If you would prefer to answer live, just raise your hand and we'll welcome you to the debate ring. While you think about what you want to share, especially for the career coaches out there, big question for you, Alan. If you were coaching a Kadima client on really standing out on the profile, what would you be focused on?
So that's going to be hard to answer here. I'm actually giving a talk on October 1st. I'll share that
Oh,
link
there you go.
later where I and another coach are talking about how to optimize your LinkedIn profile. So I'll put that link in. But my recommendation is to be cognizant of signal versus noise. That's a common term that engineers talk about. And think about what signal you are trying to share
Yeah.
with recruiters or hiring managers, and what noise is on your profile that could be distracting from your signal getting through to that hiring manager or the recruiter, because people are only looking at your profile for like 6 to 60 seconds. So they
Yeah.
like right here on Jeremy's profile, I understand that he is a best-selling author for AI and career chat, and career advice. So I know that without scrolling further. So get
Actually, let
through.
me stop you for a second,
Yeah,
Alan. I
sure.
just realized this is totally a missed opportunity in my end. We should do a live review. Like, why are we just talking about it in the abstract? Like, let's just do it. So if there's someone in the audience, especially the job seekers out there, who would like someone to give you feedback, or in this case, two people to give you dueling feedback, this is your chance
Oh, yeah.
to get not
Let,
just one, but two sets of eyes looking at your profile. So,
yeah, that'd be
Quasi
fantastic.
Ahmad, I love that. Quasi, would you mind unmuting for just one moment? We would
Yeah,
love to chat with you. Hey, Quasi.
absolutely. Hey, guys.
Hey, how are you?
Hey, Quasi, how
Very
are
well,
you?
very well. Thank you. It's
All
been a
right.
very lively session. Thank you
Hey, good.
for
We
allowing us to join.
we aim to stir it up, even if we're not always the best at coming to
I love it.
consensus. Okay,
Love it.
Quasi, do you mind sharing your profile URL in the chat, and we'll put it on the screen and just talk through it together?
Yeah.
Okay,
Let
beautiful. And
me.
everyone, give Quasi a lot of love. I mean, this is a totally
Oh,
unexpected turn, but this is fun. I love
That
this.
the question is, how do I share the link? Let me
Yeah,
see.
so if you go to the top of your profile and just copy it right out of the address bar, you should be able to paste it right into the chat. So copy from the address bar, paste into the Zoom chat. And I
and
can
by the
just,
way, that's another tip also to like own your URL. You can change your URL as well. Like Jeremy has a clean URL of linkedin.com/Schiffling.
yeah,
And it's not Schiffling or Schiefling. It's not Schiefling dot 284797724.
right. The alternative is, do you see yourself on this list, Quasi?
Think
Here we
it
go.
should
Oh,
work.
here
Yep,
it
you got
is.
it. Okay, so here's Quasi Pro.
You got
Thank
it?
you so much, Quasi. We love that. Thank you so much. Okay, so Alan, let's go to work. And I want everyone helping out here. If you're a coach, even if you're a fellow job seeker, we would love, love, love your feedback on Quasi's profile. So, Alan, just start us off. Well, actually,
Yeah.
Quasi, before we even start off, you got to tell us what you want. Because here's the biggest rule of thumb for profiles: no such thing as a generically good profile, just a profile that's well suited for a certain specific role or a certain specific search. What do you want to be found for, Quasi?
So I want to be found for senior as like a senior leader in sourcing and supply chain.
Oh, okay, love that. Okay, so senior leader. We definitely need people in sourcing and supply chain. I feel like it's still all gunked up after the pandemic. So we need new skills. Now, Alan, how did we get Quasi found?
Yeah. So first off, I think I'll be direct, Quasi. I'm a New Yorker. Don't
100%.
I think you're wasting space up there with that generic blue bar. So you should put something up there to use that headline space. LinkedIn's giving you that. That's your banner. Don't waste it.
And
All right.
just to be
Um,
just to be clear, Alan, like what would you recommend? Like what would be a good place, good way to fill up that big gray space?
so LinkedIn gives you like about like 12 or 15 options, but outside of that, it could be something that you spoke about previously, like maybe you are a speaker, or maybe your location, if like Memphis, Tennessee, if you want to stay around there, or something that you believe in that's not too controversial. And there is, or you could put controversial up there, but then you're going to piss some people off. Um, so I would look at some banners of other folks, or even just an attractive looking banner. Yeah, like
Yeah, what if you just like look for something supply chain related?
there.
So speaking to like I think something we've all appreciated, which is
Oh
the
yeah,
global shipping world that is completely gunked up. Could you
there.
signal that really quickly?
Yeah. So next time, don't ask me, Jeremy, when you know the answer.
Oh, sorry, sorry. This is why we want to have dueling views. We
Yeah.
got to give the audience a choice.
Yeah.
Okay, keep going,
Other
Alan. Keep
things
going.
here, like I won't dig in too deep here, but I really like the about section that you say it's before like where Jeremy just clicked there in marketing parlance, that's like called below the fold. So most people will not even click on that more. But on the first four lines, you did a really good job, Quasi, of saying supply chain exec with 24 years of experience across PE-backed companies and so on and so forth. So that was really good. And then if you scroll down and you have the logos, scroll down a little bit further. I look at logos. So your VP and
Yep.
CPO of American Residential, then Smith and Nephew, you have the logo there, which is good. It's good that you show that you went from two different roles in the 4.5 years there at Smith and Nephew, and then scroll down further. Um, Although actually, it looks like go to the Smith and Nephew. Like it seems like you were part of Smith and Nephew for longer
Right.
than you're indicating here. And the Smith and Nephew here, you don't have the logo. So I
Mm,
would group all the Smith and Nephew together. And like
Okay.
we call this like the umbrella approach, where like the top of the umbrella is Smith and Nephew, and then all the spokes are the jobs that you had there, because recruiters or hiring managers want to quickly assess that you were at Smith and Nephew for like 10 years and you got promoted 4 or 5 times, and that shows good
yeah.
trajectory.
Especially because
Right.
I think Quasi has an amazing story to tell. Look at
Yeah.
this. You
Yeah.
started as a basic manager, you became a
Yeah.
senior manager, a director, a senior director. You
Yeah.
eventually were a VP. I mean, that's the kind of like all-star trajectory I want on my team.
Yeah, and it's hard for me to ascertain that, not just because
Yeah.
Jeremy's sharing his screen fast, but also because you had it broken up into three different sections there.
Yeah.
And then the
Got it.
other thing I like to look at, and FedEx is awesome. That's a huge logo, so you might want to put X FedEx on your logo up
Ooh.
top. Um,
Oh,
Specifically in
that's
your
good.
headline, right?
yeah, in the headline. Sorry, we didn't really talk about the headline. Sorry about that. And then on the education, University of Memphis, Jamia, I can't pronounce that. So that's good that you, and I like the fact, by the way, looks like you got an MBA from Memphis, right?
Right.
I like the fact that you did not do quasi-mod, comma, MBA. I find that people that put MBA or after their name are usually trying to boast, and it's easy enough for recruiters to find out that you're an MBA anyway. So that's nothing to change. That's good. And then scroll down on the skills recommendations. Zero received
Uh-oh.
recommendations, and how many given? How many
See.
given? So you've given a couple. That's nice.
Isn't that better? Don't they say better to give than to receive,
Yeah.
Alan?
Yes, but you should have it, but you should get a couple of received.
That's
My
right.
hunch
That's right.
is in your
Okay.
list of connections, there would be a few people that would be comfortable giving you a recommendation. And I do know recruiters and hiring managers that look at that.
Okay.
And it doesn't mean that they're going to rule you out. But if you have a few recommendations there, and I tell people to get 3 to 7. You don't need to like 60, but 3 to 7, and you're in good shape.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
and the
That's
Now,
other the
let's
other
speak
thing
to
I
a
would
question
say,
for, oh, go for it, Alan. Yeah.
the last thing for companies that you're following under interests, make sure that any company that you are targeting, you indicate that, because when Jeremy was talking about the LinkedIn recruiter, the recruiter experience, sometimes they will be looking for people that are interested in that company. So make sure any company that's on your target list, you are following.
got it. Oh,
All right.
that is yeah, that's a great nugget.
You've got your marching orders here, Kwasi. Now I want to
Yeah.
expand a little bit with a question from Daniel over at Syracuse. What about recommendations versus endorsements, Alan? I mean, that could have
Uh,
easily been one of our top topics tonight. What do you think about
so
those?
w what are the endorsements? Like the skills endorsement?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
Quasi is yeah.
Skills are bullshit. I know LinkedIn likes to talk about that, oh, all the skill-based hiring. It's important to indicate the skills because you have up to now 100 skills. I don't know if you might as well use all the skills, because if any recruiter is looking for a trusted business partner, which they're not going to be searching for that, by the way. But if they are, you might as well have those skills associated, but no one really cares about how many people can endorse you, because it doesn't really matter. But they might care that you have it listed somewhere, not the trusted business partner, but if like SQL, if you were like you had SQL skills, or Python, or things that are more technical or obscure, like supply chain management, that could be something that's beneficial
Yeah,
to
I was
have.
going to say, if anyone's curious like how these things work, monster.com from like those pre, .com days, actually gives you free access to their ATS. So if you wanted to see like how do they see whether SQL is in your resume or not, you can actually come over here, click search, and you can see exactly how the algorithm hunts for that thing and then tries to bring up how much experience you have with it. So you're absolutely right, Alan. Like I think endorsements are kind of bogus, but the keywords themselves are critical. So be
Yep.
sure to check that out. Okay, I know we're down to about 5 minutes. Quasi, you've been absolutely amazing. Got to thank you so much and wish you tremendous success. I do want to give some folks chances to ask questions. So I want to take a question from Anessa because we promised that, and then also a question from Will because he had a great question as well. Anessa, did you want to ask your question live? Uh-oh, did we lose Anessa? Okay, never mind. So Anessa, sorry about that. We'll get to you next time. Let's take this question from Will Allen. What do you think about really long headlines? They look really good in the profile, but then they get cut off. That above the fold that you were talking about when they show up everywhere else on the site. What's your take on that? Because Quasi
So
does have a pretty long one.
the headline is different than the about section. Headline, I believe it's a 220 character
That's
limit,
right.
Jeremy, right?
That's right. You got it.
Um, so again, if you can convey your message concisely, that's better. Again, signal and noise. So here, Procurement Officer at American Residential Services. I wouldn't put that American Residential Services here. It's not like it's like IBM or Google or something like that. And you have American Residential Services on the right side anyway. So take that out. Supply chain transformational leader makes sense. P2P, maybe in your space. I don't know what P2P means, but oh, you're able to edit this now?
Don't
Are
worry.
you?
This is not live Quasi. I'm just sort of demonstrating what Alan's getting at here. This is only on my screen.
Oh, that's okay. I don't know how you can edit his
Quasi's
stuff, but
like,
that
what the heck? I didn't sign up for
I was like, how do you have
that.
edit access to his
Yeah.
profile? What are you going to do to my profile?
Right, right.
Um,
Well, but I love it because we can see on the screen instantly by taking out ARS, it's a
yeah,
little clearer. It doesn't feel so jumbled
Yeah,
anymore because it did feel like
you're
a lot
right.
before.
Yeah.
that's cool what you just did there. I got to find out what technology you're using there, Jeremy. But
Oh yeah.
the advisory, I don't know what value advisory adds. The medical device, that could be interesting, but if you get that somewhere else in your profile, it doesn't need to be up at the headline. So the shorter you can be with those 200, you don't need to use all 220 characters.
Yeah.
Shorter is better. I think putting X FedEx in there could be beneficial. Um, but that's my perspective. Like I only say using X when it's a well-known brand that you are not getting credibility for above the fold. So like American Residential Services, if that's a big name in your space, maybe that's fine. But in my world, I've heard of FedEx. I haven't heard of American Residential Services.
Makes sense.
All right. Again, Quasi, you've been so generous. We kind of put you on the spot there. You
No,
absolutely
thank
rock
you.
this.
This was
Oh,
very beneficial.
and the one other thing, Quasi, if I or Jeremy have mispronounced your name, I apologize. But another cool tip for folks that have names
Ooh,
that are difficult to pronunciate, LinkedIn has a really cool tool where you can do the pronunciation, and they've put that in there to reduce bias because historically names that are hard to pronounce get less attraction from recruiters and hiring managers. So there's a way to record your pronunciation. You got to do that on the mobile phone, I believe.
that's
I don't think
right.
you can do
That's
that on the
right.
desktop.
Yep. Okay, so
Really? Oh, wow. I
Yep.
had no clue.
yeah, you're blowing minds here, Alan. This is awesome. Okay. I know that folks are like, all right, guys, we've been through the debates, we've been through the battles together. Where do we go next if we want to learn more? I know you mentioned, Alan, that you've got a workshop coming up next month or maybe later this week, it sounds like. Tell folks more about that.
Yes. So let me I'll share my
Yeah, share your
let
screen.
me I'm doing a talk with my friend Margaret. Let me share
Oh,
my screen here. She's an awesome recruiter as well. She showed me a lot of stuff about how to use LinkedIn Recruiter herself. And now actually we have a LinkedIn Recruiter license for Kadima as well. If you
nice.
look at Margaret, and you look in her post here, we are doing a LinkedIn optimization course. And Jeremy, you're invited too, although
Ooh, I'm
you might blow us out of the water. But if you I'll put the link to the workshop in here in the chat. That is a great opportunity. And then outside of that, I just put that in the chat. And then please do send me a connection request. Do try to include a note because, like Jeremy, I get a lot of requests as well. And do not feel bad if I don't accept the connection. Sometimes I do a mutual follow because, like Jeremy, we're getting very close to the limit of what LinkedIn allows for connections. LinkedIn only allows 30,000 connections, and Jeremy and I are kind of Uber users of LinkedIn.
Yeah, I was gonna say Uber users is a nice way to put it down. We're just big LinkedIn nerds, let's face it.
Yeah. Okay.
Um,
Yes. However you want. Yeah.
but
And-
yeah, I just want to echo Alan's thoughts. Would love to connect, obviously, on LinkedIn, anytime with anyone out there. And I just wish you all tremendous success. Like, here's the reality. Right now, and especially in election season, everyone's saying, oh, the economy's great or the economy's terrible. Well, the reality is everything is local, everything is where you are. And if you're facing a lot of challenges, you are not alone. Like, this is a tough moment in terms of the hiring market. So if we can be of use, if anyone on this call can be of use, please let us know. And then this election season, hey, I would just say, just like you did on the line, make your voice heard. Whatever you
yes.
believe in, whatever you want to stand for, share that because I think that's the most important thing. So thank you all for joining with us. Thank you, Alan, for being such a great partner in crime. And here's wishing you a beautiful start to fall.
Thanks all.
Cheers,
Thank
everyone.
you. Bye.